And
Straight
when
up.
you told me about it, the joy in your voice while you're like, I ruined these people's day. It was pure joy.
You're right. You're right. So it was a game made for me, and I feel like I'm going into a 10 out of 10 in a game that wasn't necessarily made for me, but I can adapt and get better. Hello and welcome. My name is Alex Gonzalez, and with me today is my good old friend, Jakey.
Hey, that's me.
And please remember that we are not game devs. How are you doing today, Jay?
Did you hear me there? Or did I cut out? Or did you just
No, I did
take
a pregnant pause.
Got it. Well, I never know now. I'm like, can you hear me or not?
How are you doing, though? I think as of right now, when we're recording this, because I thought it was just weird, Jay's tired. I'm tired. There's a war going on, which it doesn't make anybody feel good, I think. So, but we're going to talk about some video games. I just wanted to acknowledge that this is the state of where everything's at.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
Fucked up shit in the world.
And Elden Ring comes out tonight. That's where it's at. So
that's where escapism comes in. Video games.
So massive.
We didn't even talk about PSVR 2. How fucking great does that thing look? I'm so excited, man. I've never been so excited for this thing.
I rely so heavily on escapism that when people are like, but what if you did get trapped in an MMO? And I'm like,
great.
Yeah. That's exactly how I feel. I'm like, the atrophy is going to suck, but we'll figure it out. I mean, hopefully you put me in a place that stimulates my muscles.
I'm going to be that guy in the SAO.hack universe that's just selling shit. Like, I'm just trying to make a living in this world. I'm like, I accepted it. I'm here. This is my life. I live here now. I'm going to make money.
But those are not the circumstances we are talking about. Today, we are creating something new. Every week, we are not game devs. We create a new, exciting video game idea that we have always wanted to play, but not have the knowledge or know-how to create the wonderful experience that are video games. And today is my turn to present We Are Not Game Devs, 194th IP. And let's begin with this basic concept. I want this to be a turn-based RPG or an RPG. It's going to be an RPG no matter what. I got the inspiration for this game off of a chart that I saw someone post up. Credit to whoever that is. That's not how credits work, huh? In regards to Inside Out. And what they were doing was they were like, okay, when Inside Out was happening, the movie about emotions, about this kid who moves to San Francisco, hates it, used to be a soccer player, has these emotions, joy, sadness, anger, and what's the third one? It's green. Envy and fear.
I don't remember. I watched it once in movie theaters when it came out years ago.
So
I remember the movie though. They had a weird moment. Like half the movie, they were in like a weird wonderland with like a fucking elephant.
Which I thought was going to be the villain, but it turned out not to be.
Yeah, that was a weird movie.
So in this chart, they said like joy with joy is like happiness, or joy with happiness is something like ecstasy or whatever. And then they said when joy was with sadness, that became melancholy. What I wanted to do was create a game in which there are a bunch of different emotions that not only do you feel, but it affects the magic and spells that you cast. So that if you are joyous and your character is joyous, the spells will appear different when casting a fireball than if you're in a melancholic state, and different if you're horrified or if you're disgusted. What's up?
I like this combat mechanic. I don't know if you have anything further than this combat mechanic. Do you?
That's basically it. And then I don't know how we're going to work out how the character transitions.
Cool.
But I want it to affect just about almost everything from like combat to how the character casts the spells to what the spells look like to even dialogue options. So there'll be like a buff. It's not necessarily a debuff, but it's something in there. So like if your character's depressed, you're getting fucking depressed dialogue options that you're going with.
I dig this idea. This is great. I love it. This is the premise of how the game works, if you allow. Heavily D&D inspired story. You are a character. Maybe we'll allow you to choose. No, you'll be the human. Maybe we could let you choose your class, right? And maybe you could change your class throughout or whatever. Like you're like the all-arounder, and you could choose like between 4 different classes and have like different whatever. You know what I mean? Anyway, the story is you're in this party, and you have to get from point A to point B because of some like Vox Machina shit where you're like a party that has gotten together. You kind of all are kind of friends, but kind of don't get along. You're kind of getting to know each other, but stumble upon an epic quest that you have to go and do. Right.
And that's what I think is really cool is you have to do the epic quest and the side quest, but it always kind of perturbed me. And I mean, Pokemon's one of the worst offenders here, but like there's certain things where even in Skyrim, you'll find like an orphanage where this lady who's supposed to be taking care of them is a Hargraven and actually killing the children. And after that's done, you're like, well, I just saw a lot of children get killed there. And then I had to kill the mistress. And I don't know what's going to happen to the children from there.
Yeah.
Moving on. And there's no like impact.
Right.
So I want there to be some sort of impact to these quests.
Yeah. It's going to be kind of like Oregon Trail. You know what I mean? Where if you stumble upon Snake's oil salesman on the side of the road and you help him out and he gives you elixir, you take the elixir, it makes you sick. That's going to affect the rest of your trail, right?
Yeah.
But also in addition to like side quests that can fuck you up mentally, I also like the idea because, you know, Persona and Final Fantasy 15 and shit of you building a relationship, having cutscenes with the other people in your party, and also like the decisions you make when you get to different towns and stuff. All those conversations will affect your emotions, and the dialogue options you choose will affect your emotions, you know what I mean, and give you the different status effects. And then when it's going to be kind of text adventure like where at certain points of the game we would give the player like options like, do you want to go to the tavern or the blacksmith? Because like this person wants to go to the tavern in your party, but this person wants to go to the blacksmith in your party.
Right. And I think this game's going to be interesting in the sense that like if you're a player like yourself, Jay, where you want to talk to everybody, you're never really going to settle on how you want your character to be, because your character's never going to be just happy or just angry or just sad or disgusted or fearful, because as you talk to different NPCs, they're going to kind of pull you through this. Whereas maybe you were happy and then you run into an old friend of yours from childhood who isn't doing well. And then you find out that they're in debt and then that they actually steal from you. And then you become melancholic. Whereas I think there's going to be guides written here where they're going to be like, this character here, just ignore this whole quest because it's tragic and it's going to bring the whole party down. And it takes several hours to get out of that.
Yeah. Not just that, but I don't even think it's going to be possible to talk to everyone in your party and get the full friendship level up. If you choose to try to balance it all out, I think you just won't ever get to know your entire party that well. And maybe we could even have different endings and different dialogue in the end game, mid-end game, where it's like, if you didn't know your party that well, this happens. If you're really good with your party, this happens. If you're not on good terms with your party, this happens, type of thing. You know what I mean? And I could see it kind of being like, you know, like Danganronpa, you know what I mean? Where you just have this limited time to build friendship with these specific people, because in Danganronpa, it's because they get killed. But in this, it could be for any reasons. They get killed, they change sides, they
Yeah, if they become envious or too jealous or start to have hatred of you, they're just gonna end up leaving after a certain metric gets hit,
hmm hmm for sure.
or you're gonna have to kill them.
Yes, that as well. All possible outcomes. And I think, there's going to be a lot of branching paths and um multiple ways that things can go, and there will be like written, and I feel like probably fully voice acted everything for all of these. So it's just going to be this huge multi-branched path game.
Yeah, and I think for that reason, instead of it making like 4 classes, I think there should just be one character who has a bunch of different trees, almost similar to Cyberpunk, where it's like if you want to invest in magic, here's a couple different ways that magic works out for you by putting these points in. If you want to invest in being dexterous, you can be dexterous and sneaky, or you can be dexterous and strong.
Yeah.
And this is how it works out.
So just leave it open for you to build whatever you want, essentially.
Yeah. So if you want to wield an axe and shoot fireballs, you can do that. And I think the way it'll work is different classes will have, I think the emotions will benefit them better, but that doesn't mean that it'll change different things. So for instance, with an axe, if you have anger, it'll turn into rage. If you're sad and depressed, it'll turn into revenge. And this is how different skills will slowly morph, where you're like, oh, okay, instead of being enraged, they're vengeful. So it's a vengeful strike instead of a rageful strike. And then it has different effects that way.
Totally. I can feel that.
So like a rageful strike maybe will do stun damage because you're hitting harder, whereas a vengeful strike will inflict bleeding because your character wants to see pain.
Yeah.
That sounds kind of fucked up, but it's just the way I'm thinking about it going. I could see it being that way too with magic, where if you're about to cast a fireball and you have your fire hands going, when you're angry, there's going to be fire dripping off of your fireballs onto the floor because you just have unstable magic. And maybe when you cast it, it explodes. Whereas maybe if you're fearful, it instead gets shot into like a beam, or like it's more widespread and uncontrollable.
Definitely. I like all of those ideas. I mean, this shaping up to a game like a mechanic I wish existed. Like, I think this is a good idea for any RPG. Really.
Right?
You know
I think this is something that people should steal.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. I like it. Do you think it would be worth having? So I want the party to be 4 people, but do you think it will be like Final Fantasy VII, or like, I guess just any Final Fantasy game where there's actually like 8 characters, but you interchange to who you want and stuff like that?
I think, yeah, we should do something like that. Just that way, when you have the gap to lose a couple characters, where that might happen on a first playthrough, and you can still pick some up along the way if you so choose.
So you want like it to be any of your party members could die, like Fire Emblem permadeath.
Yeah, or get like angered or whatever, and then you can replace some of them. Because I don't want it to be something where they stick with you forever, because that's going to break immersion, where you're like, this dude just fucking hates me. And he's still here, and I don't know why. Like, he talks mad shit, and I can't do nothing about it.
We could have it so like all the party members have their own thing. You know what I mean? Like how...
Yeah.
Have you watched Vox Machina?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, there's like 2 people that are twins, and then there's like one bard that's just friends with everybody in the group, or there's like this one other guy who's just like gets along with the youngest, and he's kind of like a father figure, and they all kind of have their own relationships going on with each other. And so if there's someone that just hates you, maybe they're dating someone in the group, and the reason why they hate you is because you hit on that same person, type of thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
I also could see that if you try to romance in this game, the feelings and who you try to romance, it'll like affect how they perform in battle. So like, let's say there's like a Gamora type, like a fierce warrior woman who can't really feel emotions. If you start romancing her and is successful, she'll like get worse in battle because like the emotions are like bring her down type of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that'll be interesting to add that to the mechanic too, on how they're going to be fighting, and depending on the character, yeah, they could get worse, and then maybe your synergy attacks will get worse as well. Because I think with your romantic partner or someone that you have maxed out as well, you can start doing synergistic attacks with them.
Mm-hmm. Or like even high friendship.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, like maxed out friendship if it gets that point. Because once you spend enough time with somebody, you can kind of riff off of them or go that way. So that sounds totally fair and something to expect.
And not to say that love will make everyone worse. Like some people would make them better, depending on the person that it is, you know?
Yeah, like I could see it where like a certain warrior, now that they have love, depending, now they become fearful. So instead of them being able to be attacked, they're worried about what's going to happen because there's actual consequences, because they used to be nihilistic and now they're not.
Yeah.
Whereas some, maybe it gives them something to fight for. Okay. So I think what's great about this is, for the most part, depending on the dialogue choices, how it's going to flavor the dialogue and everything like that, to make it easier for people to understand, like kind of where we're going, instead of making it subtext, I wonder if it would be better if we color coded the different emotions. And it's going to be easy. Obviously, red is rage, right? Red is anger. So you're going to progress further down the anger path. Blue is sorrow. So you're going to progress further down that. Yellow will be happiness. And then the different combinations of the colors will yield the different things. So like happiness plus anger, what emotion is that? That'll yield orange. Vengeance, I guess?
Yeah, sure. I guess so.
Right? So then that'll be that, it'll go from there, and you'll have different emotions kind of going that way. That way, when you see in the dialogue, oh, okay, all right, like this font is this color, which means I can do this.
I also think, I don't know what your vision for how this game looks is.
I see it looking pretty good as you're talking to people and fighting, but I don't see, with the way this gameplay is going, I could see it being a game where you can queue up attacks and it looks great, or you can sit there and pause and program each attack for each of your squad members.
Okay. Interesting, because in my head, the battle system is very much like Fire Emblem, where it's kind of isometric and grids.
I'm cool with that too. I'm like very cool with that, because that would allow for more dialogue to happen in battle too.
Oh, that's true.
So that way we could have major dialogue happen, like, and emotions change. Like if there is death, if a party member dies, that'll change everything. Where maybe you do have a shonen character who gets unleashed, but you have other characters that become just shocked.
Yeah. Not just that, but I think it'd be cool if, let's say, there was a dialogue thing that happened right before that with someone that left unfinished. They'll try to continue talking about it mid-battle, and that could also change emotions.
And I think we can take a big inspiration from anime there in terms of like in battle dialogue and stuff without it getting too campy.
I also see how the main portion of the game working out is mostly menus of paths you could take, but we could take like an artistic route to it where it's like, instead of choosing from a menu, you choose like paths on the screen, and it like zooms in, and there's like nothing's like, it's not a photo, it's like a moving graphic of the environment, and like all the characters you could see, like kind of like Oregon Trail, the I know you haven't played it probably, but on Apple TV or Apple Arcade Plus, Oregon Trail, where everything's just moving, and it's just like all the characters have like animations to them and stuff. The reason why I'm getting to how it looks is because on top of the colors on their like outline and all that stuff to display what emotion they are, I think we'll have animations that also show their emotion in their body language and like
yes, absolutely,
like yeah.
Sorry, and I think on top of that, at the end of the chapter, you can also see what emotions your characters were in. I think they would be cool to show like in a branching path, like where it took and then what it looks like.
Yeah, I like it. Like emotional chart that also is by chapter and what happened, major events that happened as well. You could see that for each character if you wanted. Like each character, you could do like an in-depth bio, like in XCOM or whatever, and you could look at everything that they've ever done, accomplished, and all of that, like all their stats.
Well, all right. And this way, I think by the end of the journey, you're going to not only like understand like where the characters come from, but you're going to see it too. You're going to see these kinds of like how the characters really change and develop over time.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I want to add is, of course, you know, characters will bounce back. It just, you just don't know what state they're going to be in at the end unless you really take care of them, because there is a chance that you can keep a character happy the whole time if you know what they like and avoid literally everything else. So there's also runs like that. With music here, I'm thinking it's going to be orchestral, like small instrumental sounds, and depending on what emotion you're in, mostly that's gonna feel it as well, like drums for anger, maybe a nice flute for happiness. You know, it'll go like those routes, and then there'll be different themes where these emotions are tied to instruments, and depending on what emotions are present in the battle, those instruments are going to be used to compose music.
I do think it's going to be heavily fantasy sounding, though, the soundtrack, because I think it is
this is fantasy as hell.
Yeah, like high fantasy, D&D, basic D&D or Tolkien type fantasy. We could also, you know, have our own lore, of course. I don't know what it would be. But I like the idea of this being a basic Tolkien D&D type fantasy universe, you know, like all the classic shit. We'll have mimics.
It's just, there's just, you're not going to have the levity. It's going to be weighted for sure. And pricing, this is fucking full pop, baby. Yeah. Like we're going in, this is complicated. There's a lot of writing. There's a lot of mechanics. It's a lot of balancing. You're paying for all of this. This isn't going to be easy to put together at all.
Yes, sir. Full pop.
All right, Jay. We gotta get this timer out because we're going to name this game.
Go.
You ready?
I'm ready.
The Scars We Cannot See. I don't know. That's too anime-ish.
I was like, that's a long title for a video game, too.
Yeah. Unseen Scars.
Like, imagine the scars we cannot see. 2. The scars we cannot see. Again.
Right.
The next scar you cannot see. 4. Let's call it. Let's call it. This is a cheesy ass name. Let's call it On Your Sleeve.
That's way too cheesy. I feel like that's a visual novel. You know.
All of a sudden, it's made by Game Freak.
The Adventurer's Toll. Like what the toll that you pay to be an adventurer.
Oh, sure. Let's do that. Adventurer's Toll. Adventurer's Toll.
Adventurer's Toll.
58 seconds.
All right. Adventurer's Toll is a high fantasy RPG where you play as a character that can be really anybody and you form a party. And during these missions, your character as well as your party can be affected emotionally by the different events that you experience in the world. From joy to sadness to disgust to abject horror to melancholy, you'll experience it all and it will affect not only your mood, your dialogue options, but the very spells and way you cast and use weapons in the Adventurer's Toll. All right. So I think we have a game here, Jay. What do you think? Would this be a game that you'd want to play and is it fun?
Hell yeah, dude. Every RPG, take this mechanic from us. Please. This is great.
It would be like detective mode from Arkham Asylum where now it's like just a thing.
This is the best thing since the Nemesis system that no one utilized. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think this would be really, really, really awesome. This would definitely have an M for mature just slapped on. Like, this is not a kid's game. This has a lot of nuance, but it'd be a great game to play where like your partner comes in and they're like, are you crying? And you're like, it's just a lot, you know? There's a lot going on here. And I don't know what they're doing, but I got to continue on. All right. Now that we have a complete game, what game studio would you assign to be able to make the Adventurer's Toll the best?
It has to be all the greats. I mean, this could be BioWare. This could be Blizzard. This could be Bethesda. This could even be Atlas. You know, this could be a super,
Atlas would do a good
giant,
job.
You know, like give it to the Hades team.
You have to have those people who can put it all together.
Yeah,
so to
Square
say. Like,
Enix.
This is. It can't just be one thing. You gotta really put this mechanic in and really do it. And you know what? Square Enix did hit it with Final Fantasy 15. Yeah. Supergiant does hit it.
Fuck it. Bungie. Next IP. Do
Jesus
this.
Christ. If this were a PS5 exclusive, I'd be like, you know what? We don't. It's far and few and in between, but man, when we get them, we get them.
Can you imagine Bungie's like, so yeah, we're good at guns. Fuck that. We're going to go turn-based RPG.
But even then, they could still use guns
or not turn-based,
and make it work. That
what is this?
Isometric
real-time strategy?
Yeah. And people are like, holy shit, this is not Halo Wars.
No.
I mean, you named all the ones that I would name. I don't think I have any other ones.
It has to be one of the greatest developers of all time.
Yeah, because the only reason I'm not gonna lie to you, I feel like if we were to give it to someone like Hideo Kojima, he would oversell it, or it would end up people would be confused as to what it actually is.
Not just that, but I just don't think you'll ever get to the ending, really. Like, and understand what just happened.
But those trailers would be sick.
Yeah.
And with that, our 194th IP has gone gold. We hope you look forward to this experience that will probably never release. You can write to @poundgames@gmail.com if you have anything to patch into the game we created today. Also, give us feedback. We're still learning how to make this show better, and your feedback really helps. We have a Patreon. If you'd like to back our ideas, please head over to patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. Patrons receive episodes 2 days early and an extra podcast at the beginning, which you caught the tail end of our conversation at the beginning of this episode. That's patreon.com/wearenotgamedevs. If you liked our show, why not subscribe and give us all the stars on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Store, Spotify, YouTube, and more. And if they ask for a review, instead of reviewing our show, become your inner game critic and review The Adventurer's Toll, the video game we just created. Thank you for joining us today. We'll be back next Friday with another new IP. Again, my name is AG.
And I'm J.E.
Thank you, and please remember that we are not game devs.
The twist at the end. This is what happens. You know how we have 6 other party members in a party of 7. There's going to be one dude that is not, if not slightly, mostly left out. You just never pick that one person. In the end game, that one person leaves the party and betrays you. And depending on how big the difference is, the bigger the betrayal. So if you just ignored one person, just never used them, that dude
That'd be
fucks
me.
you over, and the game
That'd be
gets
me hardcore.
significantly harder. And then if you like just barely ignore
What I
him
like too
or her,
is and if it's a game made by me and everything, and it's like an Alex ass game, third act to fourth act, there's a time skip. And in that third act, you're left fucked up by that main villain now. And there's somebody who lost an eye. Your main character doesn't have an arm. Like there's significant damage done to everybody here.
it's
That one
like,
character who had beautiful long hair, now it's shaved off.
yeah, it'll be the end of season 2 of Ted Lasso. You know what I mean? Just like what?
Yeah. You're just like, damn, okay. Great. And my original path for this game was I did the Inside Out emotions. And at first I wanted to create a children's game about them trying to do the emotions. And I thought about making a game where there's like a Super Saiyan aura around the character. And then I finally arrived at this idea after chewing on it for a while.